Determine the 80th percentile of the distribution that follows. Is it x equals to 32, x equals to 35, x equals to 37, or 39? Okay, so in the previous videos, what I've been doing when I encounter a frequency distribution table like we've got here, and I'm asked about percentiles or percentile ranks, is I immediately change the format of the table or redo the table. And what I do is I list my percentiles in the first column instead of the scores or the categories of scores, and I list percentile ranks next to them. Now it's easiest to start with the percentile ranks because these are what you've already been given. So they are 100% and 90% and so on, 50%. And I'm leaving a little bit of space in between them because very often we get asked to do some work in between these values. Okay, so the tricky part here is that the 100% does not go with the given score or interval of scores. Instead, this percentile rank goes with a percentile that is equals to the upper real limit of either the score or the interval of scores. So if you have an interval of 40 to 49, the upper real limit is a half step above this. So a half step, that's supposed to be an arrow, a half step above this would be 49.5. That is my upper real limit. My lower real limit would be a half step below. That would be 39.5. But I don't want to deal with that. I'm not working with lower real limits. I'm working with upper real limits of each of these categories. So the 100% goes with not 40 to 49, but instead it goes with 49.5. That is the 100th percentile. The 100th percentile is 49.5, and the percentile rank of 49.5 is 100, or 100%. So that's how you read this. So we keep going through these. So I just need the upper real limit of each of these intervals. So the next one is going to be 39.5, and the next one is going to be 29.5, and so on. 19.5. All right. So now we can have a look at the question that they're asking us. They say, determine the 80th percentile. Well, we don't have 80% on here, but we do know that 80% is in between 50% and 90%. In previous questions, we were always asked about values that were exactly halfway in between. So if we were going halfway between these two here, then we would end up going halfway between these two here to find our answer. Now it's not as simple as that. 80% is not exactly halfway between 90 and 50. So we're going to have to work on figuring out what proportion of the way we are going, or what proportion of this distance, so my total distance here, what proportion of this distance am I actually covering? So my total distance is how much? It's 90 minus 50. That gives me a total distance of, let me make a bit of space here, gives me a total distance of 40%. So that is how much of the way that's how much difference is between these two rows. But we're not going the entire distance. We're only going part of that. We're going a shorter amount. We're going up to, from 50 up to 80. What is the difference between 50 and 80? So 80% minus 50%, that gives me 30%. So I'm only going part of this total distance. I'm going, let me fill this in to sort of give you an example. I'm only going part of the way. I'm not going the entire way. We have gone a total of 30% to get from 50 up to 80%. Okay, so what am I supposed to do with this? My total distance and the partial distance that I've gone. Well, what we have to do is figure out what proportion of the way from 50 to 90, 80 is. So the proportion is equals to 30% out of the total 40%. 30 divided by 40 is 3/4, or 0.75 on your calculator. So we have gone 75% of the way from this row to this row. To get our answer, we're going to do the exact same thing over here. We're going to figure out what our total distance is. So let me figure out the total distance between 39.5 and 29.5. So 39.5 minus 29.5, that's equals to 10.0. So 10.0 is my total distance between rows here. But we're only going part of that way. We're only going 75% of the way. So what is that going to be? What is 75% of the way between 29.5 and 39.5? Well, the way that we work it out is like this. First, we're going to start at 29. Actually, let's use something a little easier to see. Let's start at 29.5, and then we're going to add a bit. We're not going to add the full 10 because that would take us to 39.5. Instead, we're going to add 75% of the full way, 75% of 10. That's going to give us our answer. That's going to give us the value that goes with 80%. So what is this? Well, 0.75 times 10 is equals to 7.5. 29.5 plus 7.5, that gives me 37. So 37 is the value that goes with 80%. The 80th percentile of the distribution is C, 37.